Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you... Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
The judge has just dismissed the defendant's upcoming case, but he's not done yet.
This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they... You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
Judge Schott has just reversed his decision and acquitted the defendant on the spot.
So you're granting it because you don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm granting the JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, the JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
The defendant, Lisette Gonzalez, walks out of...
Welcome back, my PBM family. Welcome back. Another episode of Old School Cops presented by PBM. You send in videos, we'll give you the assessment. I got a two-man unit tonight. It's just me and my boy, the godfather of law enforcement, Ted Golden. He was a city officer. He did really well as a city cop. He took his talents to the federal level and did amazing work for the DEA. So you got some real good experience here with this two-man unit. This particular video, you know, I had one of my supporters sitting and said, this is actually a pretty good question for you guys. He said, what do you think when it comes down to a prosecutor, when they know that the officer's lying? How do you feel about that? For me, my opinion and view, if the prosecutor, who's a part of this whole system, acknowledges or see that there is intentionally misleading or false by the officer, and they continually push or prosecute the case, they should be just as liable as the officer who pushed it. If you're going to go ahead, knowingly push false evidence, false statements, false witness, you should be held just the same as the officer. When it comes down to perjury, prosecuting a case, I mean, we got to have some trust in our system. And if you willingly know that you're pushing a garbage case and knowing that there's a lot of misleading and false information, yes, I'm totally with prosecuting a prosecutor for pushing false evidence. OG, what do you think?
You know, the hardest part about getting a case that goes to trial is making sure you've got adequate information that supports the allegations of misconduct on the part of the person that's being prosecuted. When you have the probable cause hearings, I think it's what this is probably a later part of the process, but that's when you get to hear the witnesses. And it has to be a witness of fact, not fiction, not something you made up. And there has to be documentation to support what you say occurred. When you take a witness stand and you take an oath, that means that you're going to walk in that place and tell the truth, and the information that you're providing is supported by reports or someone else's observations. Unfortunately, because people always think cops are right, and this judge, we're gonna give him credit because he stood up and said, "No, not in my courtroom." They tend to allow them to a little leeway in what they say and what they do. Oh, let me correct my statement, Your Honor. That's not the way it happened. You know, if your case is weak, then you need to make some adjustments and go back and get new evidence if you have to. And normally, I'll be honest with you, that's what happens in federal court a lot of times. The judge will get an affidavit for a Title III where we listen to people's telephone conversations. And if it doesn't have enough probable cause for him to take that next step and sign that court order, he will tell them, I need 30 more days of surveillance. I need you to verify this information and that information. This is the judge telling the agents or the officers what they need to do. So we got to we got to be held to a higher standard. And anytime a prosecutor is willing to bend the eyes of the court, then you know better than the guy who's sitting there lying. And unfortunately, that some people lose their law licenses behind shit like that. So, you know, we gotta do better, Joe. You know, we gotta do better. You ain't gotta walk in no place and tell no lie. If you didn't have it, you didn't have it. You'll go back and get it. But there's a whole lot of folks lose their lives over BS like this when they make decisions and falsify information and break in folks' houses and they don't have enough probable cause to be there in the first place. So, you know, we just got to be better. We got to be held to a higher standard, and we got to set the example for everybody else. We just have to. We don't have a choice, because if you don't, what do we have here? A justice system that's not fair. I mean, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And one of the things I've always said this, Joe. I know the person is guilty that I'm bringing before you. It's up to the jury to make a decision on whether they're going to put him in jail or not. But I'm not wasting my time coming in here with this information, risking my life, going undercover, all this stuff, kicking doors, to bring somebody in here who's worthy of going to jail. It's up to the jury to make the decision, but give them that ability by telling the doggone truth.
Let me tell you a little story, right? You know, I was at a specialized unit. I worked undercover work, and I had the opportunity to go to federal court. And for my audience, right, most cops don't go to federal court. The state court is what they go to. Not to knock it, it's just a different experience. And, you know, you see the difference in how they carry themselves in state court versus federal court. You know, in federal court, the officer goes in state court, the officer goes in, he has his gun on his hip. He's pretty much given a whole lot of latitude on how he presents himself. He presents a case. You know, they, like this judge was saying, his testimony was all over the place. That I've seen that happen where the judges normally like kind of lets him get through it, or I even seen it where they kind of help him get through it. And you know, one time I was assisting another unit. This is when before I went to the specialized unit, I was assisting another unit on a traffic stop, and the search, I didn't think the search was good. And I told him, I said, yo, listen, man, don't subpoena me to court. And he was like, why? I was like, for me, I don't think you had enough to search the car. He's like, yeah, but you know, Mims. I said, man, that's a protective sweep. Stop manipulating it. You know, I know what Mims in Pennsylvania. I know the case law, right? I said, protective sweep is different from a search. Motherfucker, you searching that car, right? I said, so don't subpoena me to this. If you find anything, don't subpoena me. What he do? He fucking found something. He found some dope in the car. He subpoenaed me. And then when they called me to the stand, I straight was like, nah, no. How he obtained it does not, I didn't agree with his methods. I didn't think it was enough. I think there was a difference between a protective sweep of a vehicle and actually searching his car. They got dismissed. The judge pulled me in the back. He said, and this is the truth, he said, that was bold of you, bro. He's like, your word will always be gold in my courtroom. He said, I know these officers be coming here lying and bending the truth just to get a bad guy off the streets. I don't think that should be allowed, but it's allowed. A lot. If you're labeled, right, a bad guy, you have a criminal record, a rap sheet a mile long, the court system is going to give the benefit of the doubt to the officer. And they do that all the time. And he was like, and the judge was just telling me, like, you know, you're going to get a lot of shit from the guys for not going along with it. I said, I'll never go along with it. I don't care about that. I said, if I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you right. I'm not going to be playing this game. No, that's just how I am. And he was like, he shook my hand and told me, look, I got some events coming up. You know, if you want to work some off-duty work and make some extra money. This judge became really cool with me, put me onto a lot of off-duty events, working security details. And he was just admired that I just didn't go along with the guys that was in there. It was like 3 or 4 officers. And I was like, nah, I'm not. I told him, I said, don't subpoena me for that. And he turned around and did it anyway. Now, when I went into specialized units, my cases started getting bigger. The amount of drugs, the guns, my arrests started having a lot more value and quantity. And that's why I was able to actually go to court, to federal court. Now, I've been going to state court now up until this point. When I went to federal court, coming in the building, they was like, you got to check your gun in. I'm like, really? Like, they was like, yeah. I was like, oh shit, I had to check my gun in, right? So they never check your gun in the state court, but I had to lock my gun in federal court. So I got this particular case, it was guns and drugs. I made, during my investigation, I was able to get this guy with guns and drugs, So when I get in the courtroom, normally in the courtroom, right, they got little spaces, seating sections just for the cops. In state court, not in federal court. They have no. I'm looking around like, damn, this is my first time in federal court. The judge was like, officer, have a seat. I was like, oh shit. I was like, damn, he screamed on me, the federal judge. So I'm sitting there, I wait for my case. My case got called. I love that the case got called quick. Federal court, they don't be playing. So my case got called quick. Was it a bailiff in federal court? I think might have been a marshal. He come, he says, put your hand on the back, raise your right hand, and he was when I tell you he was screaming, he was like, look at the judge, you swear to tell the truth, and I was like, these dudes are not playing. You have to swear to, and the judge was like, no nonsense. There was no whispering, and like you in state court. When I tell you, it was so strict. It was extremely professional, direct to the point. And I left that with a whole new, I was like, nah, they don't be playing in federal court, man. They don't play in federal court. And I left there with just a whole new outlook of life when it came down to dealing with the feds. And that's probably something you dealt with a lot as a federal officer, but you had the opportunity to see how state, because you was a city cop as well. Did you see the difference when it came down to it?
Well, the blessing for me was I testified in both courts over my career. In one instance, I had a CI who had pinched a package, and all the cases associated with him had to be prosecuted in state court because he couldn't be compromised in federal court. So I had to take 2 of my cases, 2 good cases, in the state court. And there's one guy, he had every kind of drug you could name and guns, Hispanic fella. And he bonded out. They let him out on bond. In federal court, you caught with dope, you ain't bonding out. They're gonna lock you up, right, put you in your community, so you ain't going nowhere. But in state court, he bonded out. So he bonded out and fled to Mexico. And then some kind of way we got a death certificate that indicated he'd been killed in Mexico. So we had to dismiss the indictment because you can't prosecute somebody who's dead. So right, 6 months later, he gets arrested in Texas on a state case. So we re-indicted his ass and brought him back to the state and prosecuted him in state court. Yeah. Now the killer case was another case associated with the same informant. Well, I got to tell you what happened with the informant. So we went and bought some heroin, and he did a CI buy. He took a long time in that car, man, a long time. And, I searched him before, and when he came back, I searched him after, but he was acting kind of funky, I said, something wrong with this brother. I just kept looking at him. I said, man, come back in this room and let me strip search you again. So he took all his clothes off, and kept his socks on. I said, take out them damn socks. Dude had taken a pinch of heroin, put it in a plastic bag, wrapped it around his big toe. And he was all excited because he was gonna have his shit tonight. I'm gonna get high tonight. Yeah, I done tricked this big mug. He don't know what's going on. So he didn't know I was a hood rat. And I'm sitting there watching him I'm going, dude, he is too anxious. There's something wrong. And he had that hair around his toe. So then one of the guys he introduced me to was a crack dealer in a big case. But I'm gonna keep it on this one. Anyway, so we had to prosecute in state court. And this fool had already told me how to cook crack cocaine on tape. He's recorded telling me how to cook crack cocaine on tape. Play-by-play how to do crack cocaine. Because I told him I was a marijuana guy. He gave play-by-play, recorded. Fool went to trial. And then while I was testifying, they said, listen, we've been told that you made a statement that if this guy wasn't a drug dealer, you and him could be partners. And I said, yeah, I said that. I said, he's an athlete, I'm an athlete. We hooped together, we drink together, we partied together, and he sold me dope. So I said, but he's a criminal. He's got to go to jail. So they convicted him. When they convicted him, they took him into custody. He was expected state, sometimes in federal court they let you leave, but most time when you get a drug conviction, they put your ass in jail right away. So they put the handcuffs on him. He started screaming my name, Ted, I won't run. You know I won't run. Don't let him take me, Ted, please, please, please. Dude was screaming my name. He was screaming my name like I was his daddy. Ted, don't let him take me.
Big difference. Feds don't be playing, man. Feds don't be playing.
Hey, I had him. He believed everything.
Yeah. Hey, and this is another thing I want to tell my audience, man. That whole stop snitching. Listen, I'm from the projects. I'm from the community. I know the culture. When they talk about, when you put people in that box, people snitch, man. Don't believe the hype, man. There's very few people that I put that box and just say, let me go do my time. Let me go sit down for a little while. Most 95% of the people are going to be snitching. So don't believe the hype. Like I'm real. There's no loyalty when you start talking about doing time. And easiest thing to get somebody to snitch is they looking at a lot of time. I used to always tell them, split that time. You looking at 10 years? Let me know who it was, and y'all can split that time. I'll get the DA on the phone, and we can work out a deal. But it's either you do that whole 10 on your own, right? Or you get your accomplice and y'all split that time. And people I had a brother, right, snitch on his other brother. Like they blood, I couldn't believe it. Like he was I did a surveillance because they was just doing a rash of burglaries. They just kept hitting houses and houses. So we set up, did a surveillance. We started figuring out. We was trailing them. We caught one of them red-handed. I had him in a box, and I was like, dude, you about to get, this is not just one burg. We've been watching you. You got this, that, he had over 10 houses. Like, you looking at a lot of time. And I said, look, I can get your time cut in half, bro. Like, you're going to do some time. How much you do is up to you. I know you was with somebody. Who was you with? You tell me who you was with, and we could split your time. And when I tell you, this dude was like, man, my brother, man. I was like, what? He said, my brother. I said, y'all got the same moms, same dad, half brother, or is this some dude you call your brother? He was like, yeah, man, we got the same moms. I was like, I did the whole, read him as Miranda, got the confession. He just pretty much, he laid out everything. And after that, right, and this was like, this is the culture guy from the neighborhood coming out, right? I was like, it's all said and done, right? We all done. I appreciate it. Let me ask you something, man. How you rattle your brother, man? I was like, you really just rattled on your brother, man. It was like, man, he could do half the time. We did the crime together, so he could do half the time. I just was like, yo, I can't believe you just ratted on your brother, man.
Hey,
I
man.
said, but that's to each his own, man. I said, yo,
Come to
Ted,
that jail time, boy.
I couldn't believe he ratted on his brother.
Come to that jail
But
time, they'll give up their mother.
yes, like
Let me tell you,
like it
man.
was amazing going in to law enforcement and coming from the community and don't snitch. The how that no snitching was emphasized. Yo, you better not, like, no. You put somebody in a box, man. You tell them you cut their time in half. They start singing like a bird, man. Like, it's just amazing. Well, PBM family, you heard it from the best of the best in the game. Please don't fight with the officers on the street. You might not come across a Ted or a Joe who understands and not going to be in fear and ready to shoot your ass. You know, we
That's right.
understand. We've been there. We've done that.
On both sides.
Fight everyone. So please take your fight to the courtroom. Stop fighting them on the side of the road. Fight them in the courts. All right? It's safer. And see you next video.